back to the best NFL show on the internet. Self-proclaimed, we're three idiots talk about football for an hour. Yes, it's the Week 9 edition of Odds on NFL. You know who I am. You know who they are. But what you may not know is that our November NFL Capper competition is now open. Head on over to oddspedia.com, sign up, make your picks, get in on $1,000 worth of prizes every single month. It's that easy. You head on over to oddspedia.com. I'm going to turn my attention over to these guys to talk some football. Fellas, lots and lots to talk about, lots of headlines. But let's start off with the Commanders. I feel like that's a perfect spot to start off. Are they about to embark on this magical run after what happened this past weekend? Matt, I'll throw it over to you. What did you think about Washington?
Well, that was the giveaway of giveaways by the Bears, that's for sure. I mean, that defensive back, he's been eating a lot of crow all week. I give him credit for owning it.
He did.
Not making excuses. But this Washington team, we're not quite to midseason. We're real close, and every week that passes, they look a little bit more like the real deal. They lucked out in the season that they came on unexpectedly. At the same time, the Cowboys are a complete mess. We still don't know what to make of the Eagles, but we will soon enough. They get a little bit of a tricky game. I don't know if Alpha doesn't agree with it probably because the Giants are not tricky for anyone. But it is, they couldn't score a touchdown against the Giants the first game. They kicked 7 field goals and won. But yeah, I'm liking what I'm seeing from this Washington team. I'll tell you what really shocks me, guys. They had the worst secondary in the NFL 2 years running, and it was horrendous against Tampa Bay. If you remember, Mike gave out it was either my fantasy pick or a prop pick was over Baker Mayfield touchdowns because these guys are terrible. And they weren't any better in Cincinnati, and boom, now they're in the top 10 in pass defense. Part of that's a product of the quarterbacks they've been playing, but I love where Washington's going right now.
Yeah, also shout out Dan Quinn. He's flown up the Coach of the Year odds boards. He's now chalk spot. I think he started off, it was plus 4,000 or something, something stupid like that, all the way to the chalk spot. So congratulations to whoever put their money on Dan Quinn prior to the season.
Cowboys picked the wrong
Washington team.
They did pick the wrong coach. I seem to remember somebody on here. I'm not going to name any names, but somebody on here definitely insulted Dan Quinn quite a bit at the beginning of the season. But over to what we're talking about here, guys. I've been saying it for weeks. Washington is going to win the NFC East. I truly believe that. They don't really have any competition. The Eagles, to me, are their biggest competition, and I don't think the Eagles are great. Give the Commanders a few more games under their belt. They're going to look better and better, and I really do believe they will win the NFC East. I think we all know who won the Rookie of the Year after that game. Pretty decisive after Daniels did get the win there too, so I think that debate is probably close to being settled as well. But Washington looks great. You put it perfectly as well, Matt. It was a terrible play by the cornerback there who's been getting crap all week long, but he has owned it. To me, if I was, the GM or the coach there, I don't know if I would still keep him on the team after that absolute disgraceful play, but he has owned it, so I give him credit. But back to really about Washington, I think they're a complete team. They've been playing great, and they're going to continue to get better and better. As a New York Giant fan, I'm miserable seeing Jaden Daniels in the NFC East and seeing that we're going to have to deal with him for the next, 15 years?
Yeah. And hey, I want to talk about the Jets being a disaster, but we are covering that. So I won't talk about that because I also think that Matt can talk about the Jets being a disaster forever. But I want to move on to Jameis Winston, who comes in for the Cleveland Browns, throws 300 plus yards. I think a trio or 4 touchdowns. The guy was just insane. What are we thinking about Jameis moving forward for this Cleveland Browns team? Do they have life now, or is it just too late? Alpha, I'll throw it over to you, pal.
Yes and yes. Do they have life now? Yes. Is it too late? Yes. They should have went away from Watson earlier in the year. Unfortunately, we all saw what we expected last weekend. I don't think everyone expected Cleveland to win the game, but I think everyone did expect with Jameis back at the quarterback helm that they would play better and look like a better team, and that's exactly what they did. I think they are a threat to teams going forward that are fighting for playoff position, but with them currently sitting at 2-6, I do believe that all teams at 2-6, their year is over. They are not going to make the playoffs, so little spoiler, that does lead us to the Jets, because the Jets are 2-6. I don't really feel like eating that crow yet, because I know Matt's going to have something to say about that one. But I do think the Browns are out of the race at 2-6. I think they're a good team now, though, with Jameis Winston, and they'll start being more competitive in games, because when you go out on the field and you don't believe in your quarterback, you're going to lose every single time in an embarrassing way. You need to have faith that your quarterback is going to do a good job and give you a chance to win the game. Jameis gives his team a chance to win the game every week, a lot more than Deshaun Watson did. So I think they're going to be a better team.
Yeah, and Matt, you were on Jameis last week, props-wise.
Yeah.
What do you feel? What are you feeling about Jameis right now?
I mean, it was more about the Ravens secondary than it was Jameis. But I knew that Jameis, I mean, he could have thrown 4 interceptions and still thrown for 300 yards. That's who Jameis Winston is, right? I agree wholeheartedly with Alpha on the answer to your question. Yes and yes. It's too late. And also, but I will point out, you guys, everyone out there know who the reigning NFL comeback player of the year is, whether you agreed with it or not?
Wasn't it Flacco?
Yeah.
Who did Joe Flacco play for last year?
The
Browns. He replaced Deshaun Watson. I mean, we're seeing you don't need any more evidence to know that Deshaun Watson never had that locker room, probably, but certainly lost it if he ever did. And we talked last week about when I was hyping the play on Winston over his passers. They still got some competent receivers out there, even though they don't have Amari Cooper anymore. But yeah, I mean, they took advantage of a crappy Ravens secondary. They'll probably win 7 games before it's all said and done, and maybe 8. But in an AFC that's loaded, it's going to take 10 probably to get there. No, it's too late for them.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree. And I was surprised that the players came out and defended Deshaun Watson as heavily as they did. But guys, before we get into Bozo of the Week, because there's a few that just off the top of my mind that I want to talk about. Before we get into Bozo of the Week, I want to play a little game with you guys. I'm going to say a quote, and you can tell me if Jameis Winston said this quote or not, because he is just a man of the people. Okay, first quote. I'm a strong believer that coaches coach and players play. Is that a Jameis Winston quote, Alpha?
I'm gonna say no. Oh, go ahead, Alpha.
No,
I'm gonna also say no and let that out early. It's too normal.
It is a Jameis Winston quote. He's a strong believer that coaches coach and players play.
Very
All
good.
right, we're moving to number 2. We've got 3. In high school, I wore number 8. In college, I wore number 5. And 5 plus 3 is 8. And 5 minus 3 is 2. Addition and subtraction. Is that a Jameis Winston quote?
Yeah. Yeah.
It is a Jameis
Oh,
Winston
yeah.
quote.
Oh, yeah.
It is a Jameis Winston quote. He has, I don't know, I'm looking through all of these, and it's just like there's some quotes he just sits there and he goes, I love math. And that is it.
There you go.
But yes, that is our Jameis Winston quote game. Honestly, to be honest, I could say anything crazy, and you guys will be like, yes, that is a
100%. There's nothing that would surprise me coming out of his mouth. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah. I'm looking through all these. Okay, I'm not going to look all these. There's literally hundreds of them. But hell, anyway, let's head on over to the Bozo of the Week. I would actually have played the DJ sound. I know how to play that now for you guys, or the horn sound whenever you guys make a right pick. We absolutely love it. All right, my Bozo of the Week, of course, is Tyreek Stevenson. I mean, come on now. I feel like that is the main man when it comes to the Bozo of the Week. To turn your back on a play that's already started, taunting the fans, and then to come back and absolutely tip the ball to Noah Brown for the loss. There's no bigger Bozo of Week 8 than Tyreek Stevenson. I mean, I might have one more, but I'll throw it over to you guys. Matt, who's your Bozo of the Week?
Well, before last night, I was going to say Dave Roberts for the way he freaking managed Game 4 of the World Series. But
watch out. You're going to have a lot of people in your mentions.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. And then I was going to throw out, sorry, Alpha, those 2 fans that tried to rip Mookie Betts' arm off in the on the stands there. I'm actually, I'm going to go with, guys. It's Ballard, the GM for the Colts. And here's why. They're benching Anthony Richardson, and I get it. Okay. The GM needs to be benched. Everyone fell in love with Anthony Richardson. I never understood why. The guy barely played in college, major accuracy issues, but the guy who actually stepped up and made the pick was Ballard. And now, you're using the excuse that he called himself out to bench. And no, what you're really doing is you're saying this quarterback isn't good right now and probably won't be. We're going with the old guy, Flacco. I think the GM needs to eat some crow. He's a bozo for even drafting Anthony Richardson. I don't understand what these GMs see. They see athleticism. You got to play quarterback. You got to put the ball where the receiver is, and you got to play. And this guy didn't do either at Florida. And I go on and on about Bryce Young too, and how I never understood the love there. But yeah, that's just a little off the wall Bozo of the Week for me is the Colts GM.
No, totally agreed. And I would even throw in Anthony Richardson for tapping out on a play just because he was tired. I've never seen in my entire life watching football a quarterback tap out because he was tired. Alpha, Bozo of the Week.
Tyler Stevenson. You put it perfectly. That was just the worst play you could possibly do. Taunting the fans. You're 4 to 5 seconds into the play. You're still not in position. And then it turns out he was the guy who was supposed to be on the guy in the back of the end zone. Who was it?
Right.
Number 85, blanking on his name
Noah
right
Brown,
now.
Noah
Thank
Brown,
you.
Noah Brown.
Brown, the 85. He was supposed to be on him. You need to have a guy in front of the pile and behind the pile because it's going to get tipped in one way or the other. That was his job. He did not do it, and I think it should have costed him his job.
I agree. I mean, at least bench him for 1 week because that was just atrocious. But as Matt said, shout out him for at least taking accountability. But also shout out the Commanders. I mean, they played that perfectly. They had 2 guys in the pile, 1 guy in front in case for a tip, and Noah Brown in the back in the end zone in case for a tip.
And lost in the controversy of the quarterback. What about Jaden Daniels running around forever? And still getting that ball up and in the area with that arm strength. I mean, I was impressed with the throw that should never have been completed, but the fact he even got it off and got it in range was pretty remarkable.
Another point to that as well. How did you only rush 3 or 4 guys? I believe it was a straight 3.
When are we going to learn?
It makes no sense. Every time you see it, you know you give them a chance. If you don't overload one side and make him get the ball out relatively early, everyone's sitting there thinking, oh, we got a shot here. Oh, he's going to get this off. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, and also Chicago fans have a gripe to pick with the rest because there were like 2 or 3 massive holds on that play that weren't called. But hey, at the end of the day, you can never let a Hail Mary like that decide the game. Chicago did, Washington wins, and we're moving on to week 9. While we move on to week 9, of course, we've got a game tonight, Thursday night football between the Texans and Jets. I mean, we bypassed the Jets being a disaster in the headlines, so we can talk about it here. 85% are on the Texans at +2. 80% are on the over at 42. The public seems to love both of these plays. Did they get it right? Matt, I'll throw it over to you to kick us off.
Yeah, it's, I made it kind of a half-hearted comment last week. Says, imagine if the Jets lose this game to New England. They go out and lose the game to New England.
God.
I mean, I made some pretty bad. One of my really bad long shot, picks for your first show was Tennessee to win the AFC South. It was kind of our long shot pick. But my other one was Jets under 7.5 wins on an all-win total, and that's in play. That's very much in play. As for this game, I'm taking the under. I'm taking under 42, and it's because of all the injuries. Obviously the wide receiver injuries with Houston. Lazard, on last I saw, he was questionable. Both starting safeties, out. Both starting safeties for the Jets are out. The right guard's out. The right tackle questionable. So there's just so many injuries in this game, which is weird because both these teams, although they seem to be involved in low-scoring games, but they're not. There have actually been a couple of over teams recently. And certainly in this range of 42 points, they've been over teams. I just think it's a situation with the injuries going on and with the Texans traveling. If you were to put a gun to my head, I'd say take the Jets. I just don't think I could recommend the Jets because of what they're going through right now. But this is a game, given where Houston is and the situation is, they absolutely have to win. I will point out, if you do want to play the point spread, the Houston Texans have had 2 games this year, 41-21 win over the Pats, 34-7 loss to the Vikings. Their other games decided by 2, 6, 4, 3, 2, and 3 points, and Houston went 5-2 in those games. So it could be a very close game. That's why I'm not going to mess around with the points, but I'll just take the under.
Alpha, as we look through your TNF props pieces, who are you liking tonight?
So I'm all over the under in this spot as well as Matt. I think this one's going to go comfortably under at the 42.5. The injury list is just too large for both teams. Houston on the offensive side really only have Tank Dell as their receiver who's left out of that injury room. And I think they're going to be pounding the rock all game long. The Texans have deployed a pretty run-dominant game script all year long. I think that is going to continue. On the Jets side, they cannot let Aaron Rodgers drop back and throw the ball 35, 40 to 45 times. It's proven that he's going to get intercepted. It's proven that it's not going to work. And this Jets team, to me, is dead in the water at 2-6. They pulled all of their kind of moves that they could do already. There's nothing else they could do. They fired the coach. They brought in the star receiver. They made all the real moves that they can make at this point of the year, and they just have not been able to get it right. I don't see that happening now, and I do think we will see this game go comfortably under the 42.5. Like I said, it should be a very run-dominant game script from both teams.
I love that play. I mean, I'm going to do something a little different, but before I do, shout out _𝐬𝐭𝐴. Hi, NFL team. Welcome to the show, brother. We love to have you. Sit down, stay a while. I'm all over the Texans money line here, fellas. I mean, I'm with the public here. You guys said it, man. Jets have lost 5 straight. They've pulled all their levers that they can. They capped it off with a loss to the damn New England Patriots. That once vaunted defense that we were all scared about, that can't stop anything. I mean, that last-minute drive, if it's one team that you should be able to stop in the last-minute drive, it's the Pats. It's become embarrassing for this franchise, to be honest. It seems like every time the Jets are in the news, they're always the laughingstock. Now, Houston does have some injuries in this one. I mean, we talked about a Stephon Diggs loss for this season with a torn ACL. However, though, the Texans still rank above the Jets in point differential, expected record, expected yards per play. I'm worried that the line here with Houston getting +2 doesn't make a lot of sense.
It doesn't.
The trajectory
it doesn't make sense.
of both of these teams. I know. So that's the only thing I'm worried about. Do the odds makers know something about this Jets team? Are they going to come together for a squad for the first time this year and get a win? I'm not so sure. I'm not going to change course. Give me Houston. I mean, I saw this on Twitter. It's JETS. Just end the season. They look terrible. I'm picking Houston money line at +130. I love those odds against an absolutely atrocious Jets team, but also watch the Jets come out and just finally Aaron Rodgers throws for like 330 yards. And it's just like one of those things where the lines, the bookmakers just knew something that we didn't.
Yeah, it looks trappy. The line looks trappy.
It does look trappy. That's the scariest thing about it.
Absolutely agree with you. One more thing I didn't want to add here about in terms of the under. Houston is the second best team to unders this year. They're covering 75% of their games to the under in the games. They're 6-2 on games being played to the under.
Good call. Good call. Yeah, both of you guys on the under. I'm taking the value at the Houston money line. Shout out Akram from Algeria. He's coming up, watching us on YouTube. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. Let's head on over to Sunday Night Football. We got the Colts. We talked about Joey Flacco. We've got the Vikings. 83% are on the over at 46.5. 70% are on the Vikings at -5.5. Now, I was looking through all of our picks here, and I think this is a squad ride, fellas. We do love the Colts here, but Matt, I'll throw it over to you to kick us off, man. Why do you like the Colts +5.5?
Yeah, and making it ultra scary. Of all the games we're talking about right here, this is by far the one that I had the easiest one to pick. It just was the one I liked the most, which is, again, caution out there. But there's a lot of reasons why. Let's start with Flacco. I mean, I just think he's an upgrade, not only emotionally, because I think that team was starting to sour on Richardson even before he tapped out just because of his inaccuracy and whatnot. But also, I just think as a player, I mean, he may be old, but I mean, he's a better quarterback at this point in time on this day than Anthony Richardson is, and better for that team with what they have around him. Now, Indianapolis is your best point spread team to date. They're 7-1 against the spread. They may be 4-4 straight up, but they're 7-1 against the spread. And they're also 5-0 as an underdog against the spread this year. Why is that the case? Because you go back to last year, the final 2 games of last year and the first 8 games of this year, the Colts' last 10 games decided by 3, 4, 2, 6, 5, 3, 3, 3, 6, and 3 points. They're in close games all the time. Only one of those games they would not have covered 5.5, and that was a 6-point game that they lost. So this is a team that is involved in close games. They've won half of them. They've lost half of them. And then you look at Minnesota. Obviously the hot start. They were the Commanders before the Commanders are still rolling and Minnesota isn't. They've looked shaky in each of their last 4 games, which have been close, except for the 10-point loss to the Rams that probably shouldn't have been, if not for that non-face mask call. But then against the Packers, the Jets, they didn't look great. And they collapsed against Detroit in the second half. So, and then Minnesota's defense has sprung a leak. They've given 29 points to the Packers, 17 to the Jets in London, and 31 to the Lions, 30 to the Rams. Previous, they only get 6, 17, and 7 points. I also like the fact that Jonathan Taylor, it looks good, coming back from 3-game injury absence, had 105 yards on 20 carries. I just think Minnesota's confidence is shot. I think Indianapolis has a boost of confidence with the Flacco thing, and I like the Colts +5.5. And if I had any guts at all, I'd say take the money line as well.
Take the money. I absolutely love that play. Honestly, I'm with you. You talked about the Colts being good on the spread, but Joe Flacco, whenever he sees significant playing time, he's 5-1 outright and 5-1 against the spread in his last 6 games, seeing significant playing time. He's one of those guys that I just believe in. Fire up Michael Pittman in my eyes. Fire up that offense. I believe in the old man. I'm with you. Colts +5.5 as well. Alpha, I know you're Colts 5.5. I won't steal any more thunder. Go ahead, pal. Why are you on the Colts?
Well, I have a little trivia here for you boys. Who is the number 1 ATS team in the NFL this year? Covering at 88%.
The Colts.
The Colts, they're 7-1 this year. They are the only team that is 7-1 ATS. The only game they lost by a large margin, if you could even call it a large margin, was to the Packers, where they lost by 6 points. Every other game this year, they've covered. It's been close, and Matt said it perfectly. Joe Flacco's going in there as the current better quarterback for this team. He gives them the best chance to win. I don't know why teams don't really take Joe Flacco earlier in the year, make him start for the whole year, but here we are yet again. He seems to do this every year, Joe Flacco. He purposely picks the teams that he can go to that he knows he has a chance to start at. Last year, he went to the Browns for a reason. He said he went there for a reason because he knew an opportunity would come that he could start. Same with Indianapolis this year. There's another opportunity that he can go and play, and I think they put the right quarterback in there. This team has a pretty solid defense. They have some decent receiving weapons as well, and Jonathan Taylor is back and operating at 100%. He's been great as well. So I think the Colts definitely cover this game. I'm with Matt. They may even win this game outright, but for a little security, I'm definitely taking the +5.5. The Colts are definitely one of my favorite plays this weekend.
And to answer your questions, because Joe Flacco just isn't the sexy pick, man. They've got Anthony Richardson. They want him to be their future. I mean, even last year, he came in for the Browns. Like, he's just not the sexy pick. But once he is in, he gets the job done, and he does it continuously, and he's done it throughout his whole career. And I'm with you. I don't understand why he's not used earlier, because they'd be in a much better position with him, with him under center. 100%. And hey, if you want to pick this game outright, like both of these guys said, if they have balls, if you have balls to pick this game outright,
we got balls.
Head on over. It looks like Bet365 has the best odds here with our Oddspedia handy odds checker.
I use that all the time, by the way. I use that all the time.
It's the best, man. Hey, if you're a sports bettor, if you haven't downloaded multiple sports books, obviously there's some discrepancies in every odds that you see from each sports book. Bet365 +205 if you like the Colts money line. Go ahead and head on over to Oddspedia, lock that in, and let's start cashing. All right, guys, from Sunday Night Football to Monday Night Football, we've got 52% of bets on the Bucs +9.5, 87% on the over 45.5. Alpha, is the public on the right side here?
Yes. Give me the over all day with Bucs games right now. We've seen these games continuously go over. Last week, I gave that play out as well. People weren't sure if that was going to hit. It did quite comfortably. I think we see another very high-scoring game here. Last week, the Bucs against the Falcons, that game had a score of 31-26. The week before against the Ravens, 41-31. The week before against the Saints, 51-27. The week before, 36-30. The week before, 33-16. So we're seeing a ton of points in Tampa games right now. Their defense is not great. We all know that, but Baker Mayfield has done a great job of leading his team down the field and finding the end zone all year long. I don't see that stopping. This is another one that's one of my favorite plays this week. I think we're going to see an absolute ton of points in this game. Going over to how these teams have done on the year, Tampa is the second best team in the NFL to the over. Their games have gone over in 75% of action. Kansas City is sitting around mid-tier, but to me, this is basically a pick because of how injured Tampa is defensively and how they play defensively. I think both teams will have no problem finding the end zone. Give me the over. One of my favorite plays again.
Now we come from a squad ride with the Colts at +5.5, but now we have instant discrepancies, and we love a variety here. Matt, who are you on? Hint, hint.
Yeah, I love the under in this game. Alpha talked all about the Bucs offense and defense and how bad their defense is. So I'm talking about Kansas City's defense. I'm talking about Kansas City's defense a lot. Last 5 games, their defense is getting up 17, 10, 13, 18, and 20 points. Since the start of the 2023 season, 28 consecutive opponents have not one of them has scored more than 27 points against the Chiefs. So this includes the playoffs. They gave up more than 21 points just 5 times during the stretch. 22 to San Francisco in the Super Bowl, 24 at Denver last year in Week 8, 24 at Buffalo in the playoff game, and 25 to Cincinnati in Week 2. In fact, Cincinnati is the only team that's visited Arrowhead Stadium since the beginning of last season, 12 games to score more than 21 points against its defense.
Wow.
Kansas City's allowing 16.6 points per game at Arrowhead during the stretch. The under is 9-3. Obviously, Kansas City gives up that backdoor touchdown to the Raiders last week. If not for that, they'd be on a 5-0 under run. Instead, it's 4-1 under. There's only one game, the Bengals game, that's been played over 47 points. Obviously, 47 will get you the over here, but we're talking within that range. So I think this is all about the defense of the Chiefs, and this could be a situation. If we lose 35-13 or something like that, where it goes over. If Kansas City's offense really gets cranking, but their offense hasn't been cranking either this year, or, just the way it is. But if it is going to get cranked up, it's going to be against this really bad Bucs defense.
And you said it, eh? The Kansas City Chiefs, their offense has not been cranked up at all. Well, we've got the under, we've got the total. I'm going Bucs +9. I'm on the rest of the 52% of the bets here, which is pretty much 50-50. I mean, are we really giving the Bucs 9 points in this one? I get that it's KC. They haven't blown anyone out of the water. They covered this spread twice. That's +9. And once against this hallmark version of the Saints. I mean, the Chiefs hardly skated past the Raiders last week while the Bucs fought to the very end against a good Atlanta team. Also, I was looking up just the counting stats yesterday. It's kind of crazy. Baker has 21 touchdown passes. Mahomes has 8. That, to me, is just absolutely insane. Baker has 21 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. Mahomes has 8 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. If you're looking at those stats, like, that is just unbelievable. And if you would have guessed that Baker Mayfield would be blowing Mahomes out of the water in terms of touchdown passes before the season starts, hey, good for you, man. You need a lottery ticket. But this Chiefs offense is just not what they once were. Even without Evans and Godwin, I think Baker himself does enough to keep this one close. Could be like a 7-point game when it comes down to it. Could be even a field goal game. I don't know. This KC offense is just not the same KC offense that we've grown accustomed to seeing. Give me the Bucs +9. I absolutely love that play. And just come back here when Kansas City wins by 21.
One more thing, because I got to throw this out there again, guys. I try to throw it out every week. Mahomes has thrown an interception in every single game this season, and he's thrown a bunch in the last 3 years. It's almost an automatic play at this point. Dustin just brought it out. He's got more interceptions than touchdowns this year, and his quarterback rating is 84.5. It's like only like 8 guys, and you recognize names below him, including Anthony Richardson. It's just something's going on, and I don't know what it is, but if you're a Chiefs fan, all you say is thank God for our defense. That's the only reason we got another Super Bowl, and are the only reason we're undefeated. This team's 7-0. It's Andy Reid too. Give this guy some credit. It's unbelievable.
Honestly, he's just starting. Andy Reid's just starting to get some love in the Coach of the Year odds. He's cracked the top 10 now. And yeah, you said it. What he's done with this squad, with Mahomes throwing 8 touchdown passes, and they're still undefeated. That is absolutely insane to me. And you know what else is absolutely insane to me is that Mahomes was the NFL MVP chalk for like the first 7 weeks of the season. It wasn't until Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson absolutely started going off that they took over. I don't know what the bookmakers were seeing, but if you look at the NFL MVP odds, our man Mitch Bannon was basically saying the entire time he updates this article weekly that he just was confused. He's like, why is Mahomes still here? Why is Mahomes chalk spot in the NFL MVP odds? Obviously, there's recency bias over this, but it's just insane to see that only now that Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson are above him when it comes to NFL MVP odds.
Crazy. 100% is crazy. And I'm somebody who also had Patrick Mahomes preseason as my MVP. So not thrilled with how this has played out.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can just sit there and say, oh, I knew that Patrick Mahomes was only going to throw 8 touchdown passes through 8 weeks of the season. That would just be incredibly insane of you to say.
Well, my thing was, I thought Hollywood Brown was going to be such a huge addition to this team with his deep ball speed threat, as well as having Rashee Rice in there. So when you don't have either of those guys, it's been a little tough sledding.
Yeah, I also like their pickup of Hopkins. I mean, I had him as a starter last week, and I think Andy Reid already came out this week and said they're going to be using him more. So I think that could be a catalyst to get Mahomes going here.
We love it.
Yeah. All right, let's head on over to the Oddspedia games of the week. This one was pretty easy to say. We've got the Lions. We've got the Packers. Hopefully Jordan Love gets under center just because we love watching good football. We've got 82% on the over 48. 82%, damn. 65% on the Lions at -3.5. They are also against the spread darlings. Matt, who do you like here?
I don't like anybody because of the injury.
I do remember seeing that.
Yeah, it's just a tough game to handicap given what's going on. I would imagine of the two, Goff seems like he'll play, but he'll play and he'll be all right. But I mean, an ankle injury on a guy who's not mobile is not something you like to lay points with on the road. That's for sure. But I am going to do it. I just was looking at things. I'm like, do I want to touch the total? Well, I don't know what the quarterback. And then Josh Jacobs. I don't know if he returned to practice or not, but I got some
news on it. I have today's injury report.
A resident reporter.
Yep. So Jordan Love did practice today. He was a full participant.
Okay.
Oh, so good. We love us some good.
All right. Well, I'm still going to stick with my 3.5. I would say if Love was healthy, I was going to take the points. But I will say my reasoning for taking Detroit is simple. Here's some trivia, guys. In week 9 of the 2022 season, Detroit beat Green Bay 15-9 at home. It was an upset. Okay, including that game, they played 27 games. The last 27 games, how many have they won and how many have they covered?
That's a Dustin question. I'll let him answer.
All of them? No, at least I would say out of 27 games, I'd give them 20.
I'm sorry. My bad. I can't even do math. 37. So you're going to give them 30?
They're
28-9 straight up and 29-8 against the spread. It's unbelievable.
Impressive.
And obviously they took care of business. 3 of the last 4 times they played the Packers, they were upset on Thanksgiving. I think we all lost some money on that Thanksgiving game when Jordan Love just sort of sprung to life and carried it on for the rest of the season in that game.
I sure did.
Yeah, for sure. Green Bay's last 5 games, they have a 21-point blowout win over Arizona. But other than that, 3, 2, 5, and 2 points. They've been involved in some close games. Malik Willis, I don't know. I mean, if he does play, he's looked okay. He hasn't lost him any games. In fact, he's won them a couple. So it's an interesting situation here. But again, because of the Lions just run, and I'm tired of stepping in front of them. I stepped in front of them against the Vikings a couple weeks ago, and I'm just not going to do it again. So just, I'm just going to lay the points and hopefully Love isn't as healthy as his full practice participation suggests. And I'll just lay it with the Lions. I don't love it though at all.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the last matches here. I mean, both teams are coming in pretty damn hot. I mean, the Lions are just a machine. They cannot be stopped. 20-13 against Arizona, 42. They're dropping 42 against Seattle. They're dropping 47 against the Cowboys. They're dropping 31 against against the Vikings. They're dropping 52 against the Titans. I mean, these guys are just incredible to watch. Alpha, who are you liking in this one, pal?
Up, and away. Give me all the points in the world in this game. I am all over the over. I know the public is on it, but this Lions offense is unbelievable right now. They are clicking on all cylinders. You take a look at that game last week against Tennessee. Realistically, they could have scored 90 points in that game if they really wanted to. They fully took their feet off the gas. They slowed down because they wanted to, because the game was out of reach. But they could have kept going. 100% they could have kept going. And Packers games are seeing a ton of points too. I know you just broke down the Lions games, which in their last 4 games, the lowest total points they've scored has been 31 points. But on the Packers side, we're seeing a lot of points as well. They just gave up 27 points to the Jaguars. Let me repeat that. They just gave up 27 points to the Jaguars. The Jaguars have nobody on offense. They did not even have their starting running back. They were with a bunch of backups. They were still able to go get up and give up 27 points. So this game, I do think we're going to see a ton of points here. The matchup calls for it. And then you take a look at the injury report. Jair Alexander is questionable for the Packers. If he does not go, that is an absolute disaster with the passing attack that the Lions have. Evan Williams, their safety, true questionable. A couple of their linemen are true questionable. So with all these injuries and everything going on, I think we're going to see a ton of points. Give me the over.
Yeah, the more we talk about it, the more I like this pick. I mean, I think if it gets into a shootout, you always trust the Lions to take it home in a shootout. These guys are just a well-oiled machine. They're a sports bettor's dream. Matt said it. They're sitting at 6-1 against the spread. The Packers are 4-4. If Jordan Love goes, and it seems like he is, he's still not going to be 100%. And I still don't think that team can keep up with the Lions offense, which is probably the best in the NFL. Let's be serious here. They are the best in the NFL. They have the best scoring offense in the NFL. That's for damn sure. They have 33.4 points per game. And with a low spread like 3.5, I think I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Give me Lions to walk into Lambeau Field and take down the Packers -3.5. I absolutely love that play. And let's move on to our second and final Oddspedia game of the week. This one's also a fun one to bet. I absolutely love this game. The Broncos at Ravens. 56% are on Denver at +9. 88% are on the over at 45.5. Is the public overreacting to the Ravens losing to the Browns with the money coming in on Denver +9? Or did they get it right? Matt, I'll throw it over to you, pal.
I'm on the get it right side on both those. I'm taking the Broncos. I'd like to take 9.5. So I saw it out there yesterday. Maybe it's gone. And I'm on over 45.5. This is the one play this week where I'm on both the side and the total for our show here today. Did you get a report on Lamar? I know he didn't practice yesterday, and he possible. There are 2 different kinds of injuries. I don't know what's going on with him, but that's a little bit of a concern. Obviously, he's looked great. This Denver team, though, guys, it's really weird. I mean, they're one of those teams, like, are they for real or are they not for real? They're 5-1 straight up against the spread their last 6 games. Never saw that coming. 3 straight wins on the road straight up and against the spread. They allowed 26 total points in their last 3 road games. But, of course, they faced the Saints and the Jets, but also the Buccaneers. They beat them 26-7. They've covered 2 of 3 as an underdog and won 2 of 3. Bo Nix in his last 6 games, 8 touchdowns, 1 interception. Denver's defense, top 7 across the board, including 3rd in total defense and 3rd in scoring defense, giving up 15 points per game. But let's take a look at the quarterbacks. They faced Geno Smith, gave up 26. Yeah. Justin Fields, Baker, which is a good win, 7 points. Aaron Rodgers, Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew, Spencer Rattler, Bryce Young, and they faced Justin Herbert, who hasn't even looked that great this year, and he put up 23 points. So concern about Lamar Jackson, what this Baltimore offense can do. They probably will put up points. So the question is, can Denver put up points against Baltimore? And that's where I cannot lay near double digits with this defense that just constantly gives up fourth quarter leads. Constantly, and it's the secondary. They've got 1 true blowout win. It was over Buffalo, 35-10. Yep. They were up 28-3 over Dallas, but only won by 3. They should have lost at Cincinnati in overtime, if not for a botched snap on a field goal attempt. Washington hung around the entire game, lost by 7. They had a 34-10 lead against Tampa Bay and won 41-31. So, yeah, they won by double digits, but still. Baltimore's defense has allowed 29 points to Jameis Winston, 31 to Baker Mayfield, 23 to Jaden Daniels, 38 to Burrow, 25 to Dak, 26 to Minshew, 27 to Mahomes. I mean, you can't lay 9.5 points with a team like that. Whereas the total, Baltimore 7-1 to the over this year. They're their most profitable over team, and Denver's gone over the total in their last 4, although granted they were all low totals that they went over.
Alpha.
Opposite opinion for me again today, Matt. Either one of us is going to be really happy talking a lot of smackety smack next Thursday, and the other one's just going to have to take it because I'm on the under in this matchup. I think we're going to see a defensive battle here. I have no play on the side. If I were to pick a side, I would agree with you. I would take the Broncos. Currently, I know you wanted that 9.5. It is available on FanDuel at -115, so you can definitely still get that plus 9.5. But this Broncos offense, to me, doesn't scare anybody. The teams that they're scoring against are some of the worst defenses in the NFL. They scored 28 points against Carolina. They scored 33 points against the Saints. And they scored 34 points against the Raiders. So none of those teams really show me anything. The Ravens do have a better defense than all of those teams. And on the other side, I do think the Ravens are going to do a heavy running game script. They're going to want to limit the possessions because they did not do that last week. They let the Browns have the ball way too much, and that did end up costing them. The key for them to win, pound the rock with Derrick Henry, control the time of the possession, and get to the finish line. That being said, I do think the Broncos do cover. It's not a play that I'm on, but the under by far is my favorite play on this game. That's exactly what we're playing.
So it looks like it's me and Matt against Alpha on this game. I mean, it's the number 1 rushing offense in Baltimore. They average 200 rushing yards per game versus the number 7 rush defense in the Broncos, who allow 106 yards per game. It's the number 5 passing attack in Baltimore versus the number 4 passing defense in Denver. So the main question here, I mean, Alpha alluded to it. Will Denver's offense just do enough to keep up with this one? I mean, recently they've done enough needing to win. They posted 28 points against, the Panthers. You talked about it. And they posted 33 against an okay Saints defense. But Bo Nix, I mean, if you've been watching him, if you've been watching the highlights, you've been watching the tape, he's finally found his groove. He looks like an NFL quarterback now. I think he's a huge reason why this team is sitting at 5-3. I think Baltimore wins this one, but Denver's defense, which is one of the best in the NFL, I think they do enough to keep this one close against a pretty desperate Baltimore team after losing. But I still think it's going to be a touchdown win. I don't think it'll be 10 points or 9 if you get 9.5 over at FanDuel. I like the points here. I think Denver is a good football team on the rise. I really like them. So I'll take Denver plus 9, and let's move on to our best props for Sunday, fellas. From picks to props, one of my favorite segments. We roundtable this bad boy, fire up our 3 best props of the Sunday slate, one at a time. Like always, if you're in chat, you have a prop you love, send it in. We'll talk about it. But while we wait, I'll fire off my best prop of the week. I'm going over to Washington, that magical Commanders team. Brian Robinson over rushing. I mean, did anyone see what the Pittsburgh rushing attack did to this New York Giants unit last week?
I did. I sure did.
They look so bad. It's Najee Harris. I mean, sometimes I feel like Najee Harris runs like he has bricks in his feet, or in his shoes rather. But man, that front seven had no chance against that Pittsburgh rushing offense. Najee rushed for 19 times for 114 yards, while Jalen Warren, I mean, he took 9 toes for 46. Still pretty damn good. Giants come into this one ranked 27th in rushing defense. I'm expecting Brian Robinson to get the volume he needs and easily go over the number. Give me Robinson over 75 plus rushing yards in this one. Matt, favorite prop of the week?
Yeah, favorite prop of the week is one I've used before, and I might be the one time it didn't hit. I can't recall, but it's Montgomery, David Montgomery to score a touchdown. It's a little bit juicy. It's minus 125 against Detroit. Obviously, we talked about Goff's injured ankle. So what's that?
I thought it'd be like minus 145.
Minus 140 some places, but I thought Bet 365 and I think Caesars both had, as of yesterday, had it at minus 125. So obviously Goff, maybe with the ankle, they do a little bit more running. And this is just basically based on Montgomery's just streak. He's scored at least 1 touchdown in 19 of 24 games that he's played since the start of last season, includes the playoffs. Last 11 regular season games, he scored 10 times. The only time he didn't was against Minnesota in week 7. I think he got a little dinged in that game. It was more of a Gibbs game. He scored 4 touchdowns against the Packers last year, 3 in Green Bay, 1 in Minnesota. He scored in 5 of his last 7 games against the Packers. And he scored at least 1 TD. He's actually scored the first touchdown in 4 of the last 5 games. The first touchdown for either team. He's plus 550 on that one. Green Bay has only allowed 5 rushing touchdowns to running backs. They gave up 1 to a receiver and 1 to a quarterback. So that's a little bit dicey here. But this is just a play on Montgomery just being sort of semi-automatic. The only time he wasn't against the Vikings back in the last 11 games. So, yeah, it's a juicy play, but I like Montgomery to score touchdown.
Honestly, I don't think you can ever go wrong with a David Montgomery anytime touchdown prop. The Lions, Dan Campbell absolutely loves that rushing attack. For minus 125, I feel like that's almost free money for Montgomery to score. Alpha, best prop of the week.
Let me first start that the first prop I was looking for this week on FanDuel was David Montgomery, and they do not have the odds up yet for anytime touchdown. So, Matt, let me tell you, I agree with you, brother. I think he's definitely getting in, and me and you have been pretty lock and key, hand in hand with these David Montgomery anytime touchdown props. We've been nailing them all year, so it's not officially one of mine, but I am with you. I love that play. I definitely back David Montgomery getting in. My play in this game, my favorite one is going to be Amari Cooper anytime touchdown. I know we didn't go over that game, but I do think that the Bills are going to put up some points this week. If they are able to put up some points, I think they will be doing it via the air. I think they should have no problem moving the ball all around the field, up and down. Sorry, Dustin. Unfortunately, they are playing your Dolphins, who to me have arguably the worst pass defense in the league. So I think they will be getting exploited via the air. And if they do, I do think the person who will be rewarded is Amari Cooper. You can currently get that at plus 160. I just think those odds are terrible for somebody I really think will find the end zone. Give me Amari Cooper anytime, plus 160. Sorry, Dustin.
I think the Dolphins are going to shock the world this week. I think they're going to win. I think they're going to not only cover, they're going to win, and I think they're going to get back into the AFC East. They just needed Tua to get some vinegar back in his game. Sorry?
You don't believe that. You don't believe that. You don't even believe that.
I want to believe it. They beat Buffalo. They win the AFC East. They win the Super Bowl. No, they're not going to do that.
Listen, you're talking to a Yankees-Giants fan right now. Things aren't exactly great in this neck of the woods, so I hear you.
Never forget the Yankees blew a 5-0 lead with 5 earned runs. Never forget.
Completely irrelevant to this show, but I did just get a notification I have to share because Matt is our resident Dodgers fan. Looks like Sasaki, the Japanese star pitcher who's going to be coming over from Japan this year. He's going to be this year's Yamamoto. He's going to have a massive price tag. Yeah, they're saying he's a Dodger. Everything's coming out that he's already essentially a Dodger. He is going to meet with the Dodgers next Tuesday. That's the only team he has scheduled to meet with, and it looks like they will get that deal done.
Yeah, we're becoming the evil empire. We're going to become the evil empire to the third power, I think, now. It's not good.
Brutal.
These guys are going to win back-to-back World Series, and it's in baseball, the hardest sport to win World Series.
Enjoy Juan Soto next year as well. Enjoy him.
I don't want him.
Why?
You might get him. You might get him.
I don't want him.
I will come to the Jays. We'll happily take you.
Yeah, we took Shohei from you, and we'll give you Soto. How about that?
Yeah, that's a great trade. I'll take that. I mean, Juan Soto is arguably the best hitter in the game, but I can't believe you don't want him, but I'll take him. I'll take him over the Jays.
It's a clubhouse. He ruined the Padres clubhouse. That's why they were a different team this year. They were a worse team on the field, but they were a better team without him.
I agree.
it's 100%.
I mean, the Padres were a lot of fun. They had Jackson Merrill. They had a lot of guys come in and take over that offense that they lost with Soto. But anyways, this is an NFL show, gentlemen. What are we doing?
Yeah, my bad, boys.
We'll talk about baseball for an hour here. My second prop of the week is Matt Stafford over. Taking the overs in Seattle games is just the right thing to do. I mean, I've talked about it on this show a ton of times. Seattle just always seems to be in a shootout. Even when the rainy conditions were happening last week against Buffalo, Buffalo still put up 31 points. And Seattle probably would have scored 20, 24 if they didn't get stopped on the goal line and if Geno Smith didn't trip over his own O-lineman trying to hand off the ball. I'm not sure if you guys watched that. It was just pathetic to watch Seattle on the goal line. But I told you to take Josh Allen over due to a potential shootout last week. He soared over that number. Like I said, he put up 31 points against the Seattle defense. Seattle's giving up the 13th most yards through the air this year. And I like Stafford's chances here. I mean, if you watched him last week, he had Puka back. He's got Cooper back. The Rams season may be back as well as a result. He tuned up that supposedly solid Vikings defense to the tune of 279 yards, 4 passing touchdowns. I love this spot for the Stafford over. Give me Matthew Stafford over. Whatever the passing is, I think it'll be around 250, but give me over. You know what to do when a team is playing Seattle with a good quarterback. Matt.
My second pick is Joe Burrow under his passing yards. We're going under. Last I saw was 263.5 was the high one at Caesars as of yesterday. Not sure what it is now. Didn't get a chance to check. Since he went wild against the crappy Baltimore secondary that I keep talking about. Last 3 weeks, Burrow's 208 yards against the Giants, 181 against Cleveland, 234 last week against Philadelphia. He's actually only got 2 games over 262. One was the Baltimore game, he had 392, and the other was Washington in that game early in the season when the defense wasn't what it is now. It was one of those back and forth shootouts. He had 324. Again, and then you look at the Raiders, and this, by the way, this is going to be very contradictory to a play you're going to see in my Sunday anytime touchdown prop article, because I do like Jamar Chase to score a touchdown. I just don't like Burrow to light up a defense. It's only given up 189 passing yards per game. Dalton had the high one, 319. He's the only one to go over 263.5. Mahomes almost did 262 last week, and Lamar had 247. Otherwise, there isn't a quarterback with more than 206 passing yards against the Raiders this season. Includes Stafford had 154, Herbert had 144. So, and again, situation, the Bengals are big favorites. We can talk about why that might be, considering they haven't won a home game this year. But the Bengals could get up big, and maybe Burrow has a big first half, and they run the ball in the second half, which seems to be the case for a lot of Raiders opponents this season. So I just like Burrow's. I think that number is a little too high. I think it should be around the 240s than the 260s. So we'll go under Burrow's passing yards.
And I got a little news.
I was going to take your thunder. Go ahead, Alvin.
T. Higgins did not practice today. You could probably roll him out for the game. So I think that's a great play as well. I was waiting to see if anyone had that. And I love the Jamar Chase touchdown bet that you have as well, especially without T. Higgins. Someone's got to catch it. But here's the question.
He scored 7 touchdowns in the last 6 games, and he's only didn't score one. His only one against the Giants.
Yep, so Giants are too good. Giants are too good. But, guys, question about T. Higgins quickly. I know I'm getting off track again, and I tend to do that, so I apologize. But do you think this has anything to do with him being an incoming free agent? Do you think he may be sitting out on it because he's on a losing team? He's guaranteed a massive contract next year, no matter what, because he's done a great job in his career so far. He's got it's been reported he has a sore quad.
I mean, you kind of need a quad to be a receiver, but at the same time, the season's not lost. I mean, this Bengals team could still be a wild card team. No problem, I'm
done. Sure. I'm done with them. No, done.
I'm done with them as well. I agree, Matt. They're done. They're cooked. They're definitely cooked.
You're not sucking me back in, Dustin. No,
Matt had the Bengals as a sleeper pick in his Super Bowl articles, and now he's just like, nah. One more week, and then they lost.
Well, good news though, Matt. Good news. Your Super Bowl pick with that is looking a lot better than the New York Jets that somebody on this panel gave out. So yours is still doing better than somebody else's.
Yeah, the show's going off the rails like it usually does. I absolutely love it. But yeah, I never forget that 1, the Yankees blew a 5-0 lead, and 2, that Alpha picked the Jets to win.
Thank you so much. So on to my second prop of the week. I'm going to be taking
the Dolphins now again. I thought this was going to be a bet.
We're going to be taking all Dolphins unders as our second prop, but now we're going to be taking.
Are winning this week. The Dolphins.
Yeah.
Let's hear your props.
Jameis Winston over 1.5 passing touchdowns at plus 150. I think there's way too much value to not take that. We all saw what this offense looked like last week with Jameis Winston under center. I think they're going to have another big performance. I think he gets at least 2 touchdowns, and that plus 150 will be an easy cash. So that's officially my second prop of the week.
My last prop of the week is also Winston over 1.5. I mean, I'm with you there, Alpha. I mean, is this dumpster diving? I don't think so.
No way.
Movement that Winston brings every single week is enough to just bet on him. But also, you said it, man. I love the value here we're getting against this good Chargers defense, but Winston took over immediately, and the Browns could just score again. It's like the whole offense just breathed a breath of fresh air. They beat the Ravens on the back of 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. He gets his tough test in the Chargers, but I think the value is the biggest thing here for a guy who will probably be dropping back like 30, 35 times. Give me Jameis over 1.5 touchdowns at plus 150. Matt, your final prop for Sunday. Give it to us.
Bijan Robinson over rushing yards. It's not, don't really have to say much other than the Cowboys went ahead and caught Carolina. They're now tied for last again in rushing defense, 154.6 yards per game. Last 2 games, Detroit ran for 308. San Francisco ran for 246. Some dude named 𝐿𝐨𝐧𝐼𝐶, if I'm pronouncing that right, went 85 yards, 14 carries. Sorry, Alpha, bring that up.
Come on. Come on, man.
Yeah,
but even Purdy ran for 56 yards. Other than the Cleveland didn't have Chubb, they ran for 93 against the Cowboys. Pittsburgh ran for 93, and then they held the Giants, who can't run on anybody, for 26 yards. Other than that, everybody's just ran all over this Cowboys team. They won't have Parsons again this week. He's out, so that's another ding to the Dallas defense. Bijan's only 5-3 over on his rushing props. He's only had more than 68 rushing yards 3 times this season. He's at 71.5 for this game. But he's lit up bad rushing defenses, so we'll take advantage of that. And we'll roll with both Bijan going over 71.5 rushing yards against this god-awful Cowboys run defense.
Alpha, last prop for Sunday, pal.
James Conner to find the end zone at minus 130. I think he's going to have an absolutely monster game here. He should be able to find the end zone at least once. I'm sprinkling on his 2+ touchdowns at plus 800, but for the official pick, I'm giving only 1 touchdown for James Conner. This Bears defense doesn't scare anybody. We'll see him get in the end zone.
Wow, so I think it sounds like we're going 5-0. I would say 6-0, but we both have Jameis. But I think we're about to go 5-0 this week.
I love it. Let's get it.
Last week for me, I didn't do great on the regular picks, but the props went 3-0. I'll take that.
I feel like props is like our bread and butter. I feel like the whole show should just be a props pick all day. Yeah, but I'll take it. Let's head on over to Fantasy Stardom Sit-'em, where we give you a fringe player to start, a fringe player to sit. We've gone off the rails here. We've sat Travis Kelce. Like I said, we've sat Justin Jefferson. We've sat Tyreek Hill.
Alvin Kamara's got to sit.
Rightly. I mean, because Tyreek Hill's terrible. Alvin Kamara. I mean, Carr's back. Carr's back this week. So it's a little scary to sit Alvin this week. But I'll start with my start of the week, and that is Matthew Stafford. I talked a little bit about him in my props, but I picked this guy up on fantasy right away after last week. Managers have been absolutely sleeping on him since Puka and Kupp went down, but he now has new life. He's still just 54% owned on Yahoo Fantasy Leagues. He's a big plug and play for me this week. I picked him up. I have Jared Goff as well, but I'm going to sit Jared Goff. I'm starting Matthew Stafford this week against Seattle. It's another possible shootout spot. I absolutely love this pick now that Puka and Cooper are back and healthy. Get Matthew Stafford in your line, plug and play. Matt, who's your start of the week?
Start of the week, once again, people out there might go, well, of course he's a must start. I don't know. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. It's DeAndre Swift. His first 3 games at the Bears, he had 68 total yards and no touchdowns.
Terrible. He was terrible.
Since then, 4 games since, 129 yards a touchdown, 91 yards a touchdown, 73 yards a touchdown, 93 yards a touchdown. Now he's facing Arizona, which has the 7th worst rush defense in the NFL, allowing 4.6 yards a carry, and they've given up 10 rushing touchdowns. So you'll see DeAndre Swift along with Jamar Chase in my anytime touchdown props for Sunday. Again, scored 4 times in a row, and I'm counting on scoring a 5th time. I get him in your lineup.
Yeah, it was crazy. He all of a sudden has over 100 points in fantasy, and wow. You said it. He started the week 1, 5 points, week 2, 6 points, week 3, 5 points. And since then, 26, 20, 19, and 20. He is on an absolute heater right now. Matt is right. Get Swift in your lineup. Don't you dare sit him. Alpha, your start of the week.
Xavier Legette. He is only owned in 23% of Yahoo leagues. He's only started currently right now in 6% of leagues. He's going to be the number 1 option in Carolina, especially this week. No Deontay Johnson. Thielen's still banged up. And they're going up against a New Orleans defense that let's be honest, it's the New Orleans defense. There's nothing else I need to say about that. I think Legette's going to have a big game. He's coming in off scoring a touchdown last week in a full point PPR league. He did score 13.5 points. I think he'll be able to do even better than that this week. Give me Xavier Legette.
How do you like his celebration, his touchdown celebration?
I love everything about it.
I hate it and love it at the same time. I want him to do something else, but he just rides the horse every single time. I'm like, I respect it. I
love it.
Yeah,
I like guys who can keep up with it. Even if it's not the coolest thing, it's his thing, and he keeps doing it, so I respect it.
And he's like 𝐿𝐴𝐽. He absolutely loves horses. I think he owns one.
Yes, he does.
Sure I read that somewhere that he owns a horse, and he's just a big horse guy.
big horse guy.
All right, sit of the week. I'm sadly going to one of my quarterbacks this week that I've dropped, Sam Darnold. What once was a Cinderella season for Sam. I mean, he was getting potential MVP acknowledgement from sports books. He cracked the top 10. I think he might have cracked the top 5 at one point, maybe the top 7 to win the award. But I think it might be done for him. He hasn't eclipsed 20 points in fantasy in 3 straight weeks. He's still 70% owned. I think you give him up as he regresses back to Sam Darnold and staple him firmly to your bench. Start Matthew Stafford this week. Sit Sam Darnold. That is my play. Matt, sit of the week, pal.
This is going to sound very familiar. It's the same one as last week. It's Nick Chubb again. Chubb last week, he had 52 rushing yards, which actually isn't too bad against the Ravens rush defense, which is as good as their pass defense is bad. But he didn't get in the end zone. And now he's facing the Chargers defense that has only given up 9 touchdowns on the season, only 3 rushing touchdowns, and only 1 rushing touchdown to a running back, which was 𝗲𝗃𝗃. The other 2 were Justin Fields and Bo Nix scored on the ground against the Chargers. The only running back to crack 7 yards against the Chargers this year was the aforementioned James Conner, who had 101, but he didn't get in the end zone either. If Nick Chubb's a sit, I think he's going to be a play soon enough. This just is not a good matchup. And again, those 9 touchdowns are probably why Jameis Winston's plus 150 is for 2, because they've only given up 6 in the air all season. This Charger defense has been very good. Not played a whole lot of good teams, but they've showed up.
Alpha, sit of the week.
Sit is a wide receiver. You know, I always like to keep my starting sit and give you guys an actual replacement. We're going off one of the teams that I have, and like I said, I'm starting Xavier Legette, and I'm benching Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen is currently owned in 75% of leagues. He's being started in 50% of leagues, and I'm going to be benching him for a guy who's only started in 6% of leagues. Keenan Allen's been a disgrace this year. There's no other way to put it. He's had 1 game where he's had over 7 fantasy points this year, and that was against the Jaguars a few weeks ago. These are his game logs this year: 6 points, 0, 0, 4, 6, 21, and then he had 5 again. So he's really done nothing in that with this team so far. I'm putting him on the bench. I doubt I put him back in my lineup this season.
Yeah, honestly, in one of my leagues, he was dropped. I picked him up. He's borderline droppable right now. He's been terrible.
Unfortunately, I am in a 14-man league, so guys that are borderline droppable, we're picking him up in a 14-man.
Yeah, I mean, this is a 12-team league, and he's still droppable. That's insane to me.
Yep.
Just to think in the year 2024 that Keenan Allen is droppable in fantasy.
Yep.
But hey, anyways, fellas, that just about does it for week 9. I appreciate you guys giving me your time, giving the fans over at Oddspedia your time, as per usual. Thank you tuning in, talk with us, showing love. As always, we'll be back week 10, same time, same place. If you tail us or fade us, just remember we always love you. Remember to sign up for the NFL Capper contest over at Oddspedia for free and have your chance to win some money. I mean, €1,000 every single month is up for grabs. It's a ton of fun. Get your picks in. See what you do with NFL fans from around the world. It's a ton of fun. If you missed our commercial break talking about this Capper contest, if you missed everything that we've talked about Oddspedia.com, head on over to the Oddspedia US Twitter. The Capper contest is our pinned tweet. You can just click on it, sign up, have some fun, win some money. Let's have a damn week. Let's make sure we go 100% in our bets, which will never happen. Let's go. Let's try for 56%. We absolutely love that. Let's stay in the green. We love staying in the green. For me, Alpha, Matt, appreciate you guys. We'll see y'all next week.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, everyone.